Hey, and welcome back to Common Knowledge, the show where I take a look at common Magic the Gathering cards and tell you are they any good in the Pauper format or not. Let's get started with our first card. It is Cunning Survivor from Hour of Devastation, a set that I missed. I was taking my Magic break during Hour of Devastation, but let's see if this thing is any good. It's 1 and a blue for a 1/3 human warrior. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, this creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. Sure, seems fine. Probably pretty decent in the limited environment where I believe there was quite a bit of cycling. Maybe even some discard stuff that you could do in Hour of Devastation. In Pauper, constructed Pauper, we do discard cards a lot. There's all sorts of blue cards that allow you to loot, draw a card, and discard a card. There's abandoned attachments that's discard a card to draw 2. If you want to go into Is It, you can go with all those sorts of red discard 1, draw 2 cards that are available. Plenty of effects that allow you to just discard cards. Anything that has, some kind of channel ability you could play around with as a way to discard stuff. But when you're doing that, what do you really get? You get an extra power, and it's unblockable. So 2 damage. I guess if you can discard more cards. It does say discard a card. It doesn't say discard 1 or more cards. So if you have a way of discarding a lot of cards in a turn, if you discard 5 cards in a turn, this thing gets +5/+0 and is unblockable. Doesn't say once per turn. I don't know. You could probably build a halfway decent deck around this. It's 3 toughness, so it blocks a lot of stuff too. So even if you're not able to attack with it on the turn, or you don't have the setup yet where you've discarded a bunch of cards to be able to get at the big damage, this is still like a halfway decent blocker. What is that? It's the same. Isn't this the same stat line as like Augur of Bolas or something? Which, don't get me wrong, Augur of Bolas, better card. Yeah, 1/3. So, a 2 mana 1/3 in blue. This is certainly the better card, but I don't know. Cunning Survivor seems totally fine. Just maybe a little underpowered for the things that you can do for 2 blue mana in Pauper. But I don't know. You get a deck that cycles a lot or discards a lot. We have like Cycle Storm, so we have decks that definitely cycle a lot, but those decks are kind of comboing out in a way that doesn't require a creature like this. Still, though, I don't know. I think this thing has potential. It can be bolted, for sure. It can be cast down. Go for the throated, There's plenty of reasons. You could just say, oh, it can be removed. Yeah, it can. Lots of creatures can be removed. But you can also do this at instant speed. Like if you have instant speed ways of discarding cards, there's a lot of ways to discard cards instant speed. Although if you're doing that, if you're trying to go like the ATOG route where you're discarding a bunch of cards, then you are missing out on a little bit of the value because you want to do this pre-combat or pre-blocking phase at least, so you can make this creature unblockable. But that's giving your opponent a window. I guess that always gives them a window to do something, but the way that you play ATOG is that you attack with ATOG and a bunch of other stuff, and ATOG's banned for this reason. You attack with a bunch of stuff, and they feel like, I have to block the ATOG because if I don't, in response, they're just going to sacrifice a bunch of artifacts, and the ATOG gets +2/+2 for each one of them, and those stack up enough, and you just kill them. And you could do the same thing here. Oh, you didn't block my Cunning Survivor. I'll discard blah, 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 and get a bunch of power on it. But again, you want to discard it early to make the creature unblockable to begin with. That's giving your opponent a few more phases, a few more opportunities to be able to use some kind of removal spell in response to this. And if you wait to use it in the very last second, it gives them fewer opportunities to have that mana up where they could do that. I don't know. Again, I think this effect is maybe just a touch too weak for the Pauper format that we're in right now in this current meta, but I like it. I really do. I'm going to give this thing a 4. Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a 4. I think it's just pretty solid all around. Knight of Cliffhaven is 1 and a white for a 2/2 core knight with level up. So you can pay 3 to put a level counter on this creature, and you level up only as a sorcery. So it starts at level 0, almost positive. That's how these things work. So you have to put 3 mana into this. Yeah, because it wouldn't. There would be no reason for it to be a 2/2. Normally a 2/2 if it starts at level 1, because at level 1 it becomes a 2/3 flyer. So you have to put 3 mana into this to turn your 2 mana 2/2, your Grizzly Bear, into a 5 mana 2/3 flyer. That's not a very good deal. And then you'll have to pay another 3 to make it level 2. And then you'll have to pay another 3 to make it level 3. And then you have to pay another 3 to get it up to level 4, where it is now a 4/4 flying and vigilance. I have always hated these cards because the math never makes sense, especially when you can only do this at sorcery speed. If this was something where I'm playing it as a control deck and I can keep up my mana for counter spells, and then at the end of turn, if I still have a bunch of open mana, sure, I'll just level it up a time or two. But having to do this at sorcery speed, think about this. This is at its absolute best. It's a 4/4 with flying and vigilance. And what are you doing for that? You are paying 2 mana and then 3 mana. So that's 5 and then 8 and then 11 to get it to level 3. And so then you're paying 14 mana to get this to level 4, where it's finally a 4/4. Do you want to pay 14 mana for a 4/4 flying and vigilance? Do you want to pay 14 mana for a Sarah Angel? No. The answer is no. This is stupid. I hate, I talk about liking modality sometimes, where it's like, oh, it's nice to have a creature that you can play early that can be relevant in late game. And you could make an argument that this is what that is. This is exactly that. This is a card that you can play early. Hey, it's a 2 mana 2/2. Sure, it's fine. And, I can pump a little mana in it. Now it flies. That's pretty good too, right? And it's not. It's just not. This is so much mana. You can do so many other things with that mana. These cards are terrible. They're all traps. Imagine putting, I know I made this argument the last time I looked at a level up card, because it had all the same problems. Imagine that you've paid your 2 mana to put this on the board. You've paid your 3 mana to make this a 2/3 flyer. You've paid an additional 6 mana to get this to level 3. So you've spent 11 mana at this point, and you're like, okay, hey, it's going to get there. I'm going to pay 3 more mana, and I'm now going to pay a total of 14 mana to finally turn this terrible creature into a slightly less terrible creature. And then your opponent lightning bolts it in response. They spent 1 mana to stop 14 of your mana. Terrible. Am I reading these cards wrong? Rules texts. Somebody help me out here and tell me that this is not how this works. Abilities of a leveler grant to itself don't override any other abilities it may have. In particular, they don't overwrite the creature's level up ability. It always has that. Okay, sure. Yeah. No, that doesn't matter at all. Yeah, this is not, creature's level is based on how many level counters it has on it, not how many times it's level up. Okay. All right. Fine. Proliferate. This is the one thing you could potentially say. You put a level up counter on this, so you're still paying 5 mana to get a 2/3 flyer, and that's bad. But now if you are proliferating, you still have to proliferate a lot of times. But if you can proliferate and not have to spend the extra mana, and you put enough level counters on this thing to get it up to level 4, okay. Still not worth it. You can do so much better stuff with your proliferate cards. Don't play this card. This is just a trap. I hate these cards. I hate them so much. They should be so much better. The idea, we've had cards like this that have been good. You know, they aren't level up guys, but you know, like you saw a couple of them in Lord of the Rings, like the Frodo card. Can we just pull up the Frodo actually? We had one in Lorwyn Eclipse too. I think we have one in the original Lorwyn? I think so. I think that's why it was in Lorwyn Eclipse. But you know, you look at this one where it's like, okay, hey, it's a 1-mana 1/2. Again, this is rare. We're not talking about Pauper at the moment, but this is just an example here. So you're 1-mana 1/2, and then if you pay a couple hybrids, now it becomes a 2/3 with lifelink. Okay. And now you can pay 3 and it becomes even stronger and it does some messed up stuff. It can make a player lose the game. That's better, I guess. Like this at least feels like you're making meaningful level ups, and you're also only spending 1, then 2, then 3 to get something that can win the game for you. What's the other thing called? It's, I don't know, something of destiny, maybe. I'm probably not going to find it. I guess I could look it up on the Lorwyn Eclipse side. Yeah, let's do that. I don't know why I'm doing this. It's white and green. It's Lorwyn Eclipsed. That Figure of Fable, that's what I'm looking for. But Figure of Fable, you know, 1-mana 1/1. Now you can turn it into a 2/3 for, now it's a 2-mana 2/3. That's, you know, okay. And now you're throwing an extra 3 mana, it becomes a 4/5. Okay, and then throwing a, like, this is not amazing, but at least these feel like meaningful upgrades of going, I'm leveling it up once each time, and every time you spend mana on this thing, it gets better. And eventually it becomes a big monster. A 7/8 with protection from each of your opponents. That's really good. This thing, the idea, the thing that I hate the most about these cards is that I'm spending 3 mana to go from level 1 to level 2 and nothing happens. It is still just a 2/3 flyer. That's the part where I'm like, I'm out. These are bad. Like, these things have to be such huge upgrades for you to justify making those jumps. I'm sorry. I know I've spent too much time on this, but I truly and uniquely hate these cards. These are awful. I'm going to give this a 1, as you might imagine. The total trap card. I hate them. I hate them so much. Tell me if I'm reading them wrong. Like, I'm pretty sure this is just how they work, right? Gross. Excavation Explosion is 2 and a red for a sorcery. Excavation Explosion deals 3 damage to any target, and you create a tapped Power Stone token. So Power Stone tokens, if you don't remember, are artifacts with tap to add a colorless, and that mana can't be spent to cast a non-artifact spell. So you can use it on abilities and other things like that, but or like actually casting an artifact spell. You can definitely do that too. But Power Stones are all right. I think they are very well balanced in that it is very specific kinds of ramp that you can do. I think Power Stones are great. This card, I don't know. It's the sorcery speed really hurts it, as you might imagine. 3 mana for 3 damage is really bad in a format that has Lightning Bolt. It's just hard to justify. The sorcery speed, though, I think is what really kills this. I think you could justify having a 3 mana 3 damage thing, and it kind of ramps you. I think you could make that work, especially when you're talking about some of those Red Storm decks. I don't think this works in Red Storm. I'm not saying this is a good Red Storm card, but thinking about how we have Red Storm decks that will reduce the cost of red cards, the idea that I am playing this card in a Red Storm style, in a variant of Red Storm, and I have reduced this down to a single mana. So now I'm paying 1 mana for kind of a lightning bolt that also potentially ramps me in a way. Like, it lets me use an ability or lets me play artifacts. I can start to get behind that, but it's sorcery speed. I don't know. I bet you could still probably put together some kind of red stormy variant that is artifact heavy, maybe even uses mana rocks in some way, maybe uses Bender's Water Skin. That's a card that we've been seeing get a lot more play now in kind of more Azorius control decks. But I think you could find ways of, hey, we're finding cool ways of ramping, and this thing makes a Power Stone token. Where Power Stone token's able to get the Bender's Water Skin out. The Water Skin is able to add more mana on everybody's turns. Like, this is, I can see it working, but when I'm paying 3 mana for 3 damage, it damn well better be at instant speed. I just can't. I can get close, but I just can't get to the point where I'm over the edge and go, yeah, this is a good card. I think we're going to end up giving this thing a 3.2, which is still an okay score, but it could be better. Cave Tiger is 2 and a green for a 2/2 cat, and whenever this creature becomes blocked by a creature, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So it's half Bushido, it's reverse flanking. It's not very good. I don't really have a whole lot to say other than it's not very good. Basically, a vanilla creature having to hold it back to block for it to get more value out of it means you're not attacking with it. It encourages you to turtle up in a way that makes for just not fun Magic games in the first place, but also makes for bad Magic games in that you should be wanting to attack. You should be encouraged to do more attacking, especially in green, a color that is very known for big aggressive creatures that go in and smash. And for this thing to be, what if it was like a little bit more control? You're holding this guy up to block, keeping your opponent from attacking so you can play other spells or whatever. If this was in blue, you can kind of understand that. Okay, the creature is there to stop the opponent while I do stuff. It's there to stall, to buy me time. In green, I don't really want to buy time. I want to go in. And Cave Tiger doesn't allow you to go in. And when you go in with him, he's a grizzly bear. And that's bad. Especially for 3 mana, a grizzly bear is really bad. I'm going to give this thing a 1.7. And a lot of that is I do think it just makes for unfun play patterns. But also inefficient play patterns. Not just bad Magic. It's teaching to play Magic worse. And we shouldn't be doing that. Ram Through. We've talked about this card a lot, but I don't think we've actually had the card as something to review yet. We've brought it in when we talk about bite effects, because bite effects, this is kind of the best one, or one of the best ones these days. It's one of the only ones at instant speed for 2 mana. And it is just one of the better ones for the extra effect that it does. So Ram Through is 1 and a green for an instant. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. That's a bite effect. That's just normally what bite effects are. But it also has, if the creature you control has trample, excess damage is dealt to that creature's controller instead. Now, how often do you have a creature with trample? You're in green, so maybe a little bit more often than you think, but it's not going to happen all the time. If this happens 1 out of every 5 times you play Ram Through, fine. And sometimes it's not only having to have trample, it will need to be a creature that has more power than the creature that you're biting's toughness, because it's the excess damage that goes over. In the same way that trample damage would go over as well. So you need to have some pretty specific hoops. I need to have a big creature that's bigger than my opponent, that has power bigger than my opponent's toughness. I also need that creature to have trample, or have given it trample for some reason in some other way if it didn't come naturally with trample. Those are a couple hoops that you need to jump through. And when they happen, is it really that big of a deal? That, hey, maybe, I've got a 6/5 and you've got a 4/4. I play this, I kill your 4/4, and I do 2 damage to the opponent's face. Is 2 damage all that much? Not really. Not hugely. It gets you closer, sure, but it's not. It doesn't make that big of a difference. And yet, this is still just the best one of these we've gotten. It's all upside, and sure, it's a couple hoops to jump through, but they're upside hoops. And that's what makes it just the better one. Like, why not play the card that has a little bit of extra gravy on it instead of the one that guaranteed does not? Like, is bite down instant? Yeah. So bite down, kind of the reason we call them bite effects, is exactly the same. Like, look at this card. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Again, we don't care about planeswalkers because we don't have them in Pauper. So that doesn't matter. But 2 mana, instant speed, same thing. Same thing. Exact thing. It just that, if you have this other thing, it does a little bit of extra. Why not play the thing that gives you a little bit extra? There are some reasons that you wouldn't play this and you'd play something else instead. And we've talked about this one on the show before. But Monstrous Emergence from Dustmourne ended up being a pretty useful bite effect. It is at sorcery speed, but the idea that you can reveal a card from your hand allows you to do allows this to work better. Also, the idea that this is an additional cost. Because one of the other things with bite effects is that it targets your own creature and it targets the opponent's creature. So in response, your opponent can kill your creature, and then you don't have a target for your creature, so it deals no damage. Monstrous Emergence, while it is at sorcery speed, which is a little bit lame, having this be an additional cost means that the card has already been figured out. Like, it's not targeting anymore. It's like, it's that card, or it's a card from your hand that they can't at this point make you discard or do anything with. So the damage is going to happen, and then the Monstrous Emergence does the bite effect after that. So this is something that you can play earlier because you can have a creature in your hand, not just on the board, which is really nice, and they can't interact with it as well, which is also really nice. But it's at sorcery speed. So generally now, people will play Monstrous Emergence, or they will still play Ram Through. But Ram Through has been the best one of these effects, and only in the last couple sets have we gotten something that is a decent contender to its throne. But Ram Through's good. Bite effects are good. Green needs some ways of removing things, especially creatures sometimes, to be able to get all the way through. And Ram Through's a nice way of doing it. The best way that we have. I give it a 5.9, I think. I don't think anybody's excited about playing Ram Through in their deck, but it is just kind of the one that you play. And it's a sideboard card that green, especially those mono green decks, sometimes those Tron decks that splash green, the Monster Tron decks. But again, you see Monster Tron decks starting to play Monstrous Emergence more because they can reveal that Maelstrom Colossus in their hand and not have to have played it already. They can play that earlier. And that's sometimes better. Oftentimes better. Even at sorcery speed. So Ram Through, you're still good. We still play you. But I think we're getting to a point where Wizards is going to print a better Ram Through. And then we'll drop Ram Through and probably never think about it again. But for now, Ram Through is still the best of the instant speed bite effects. Gitu Journey Mage is 2 and a red for a 3/2 human wizard. When this creature enters, if you control another wizard, this creature deals 2 damage to each opponent. It's fine. It's kind of just fine. It's pretty easy to get wizards in your deck. We have changelings, but also wizard is just a very common creature type. Even in red, you can find enough wizards, but you can certainly splash this with blue and have enough wizards there to be able to do that. I think the real problem Viashino Pyromancer. Is that what it's called? Yeah. So you have Viashino Pyromancer that kind of just does this a little better. It's a little cheaper. It's not as strong. It's a 2/1. But when it enters, it doesn't need the condition. It just says when it enters, it deals 2 damage to target player or planeswalker. Now that's target player. This is each opponent. We're not playing commander here in Pauper, so that doesn't really matter. It's basically the same, but you're spending an extra mana for a 3/2 now. I think red is generally going to want to play the Pyromancer. And sometimes, not very often, but sometimes you'll see this show up in some burn decks. It's okay. It's okay in burn decks. But that's one of the reasons why I don't think you'll really ever see Gitu Journey Mage ever be played, because we just have options that are a little cheaper, a little faster, and just about as strong. And we end up playing those instead. Gitu Journey Mage, I will give you a 2.5. You are totally fine. Just not very good. Sentinel Spider is 3 and double green for a spider with that's 4/4 with vigilance and reach. It's fine. Too much. Cost too much. 5 mana for a 4/4 vigilance reach. Also weird to, we don't see a ton of these, but a spider that doesn't have more toughness than it does power. That's a bit of a rarity. We usually see those giant spiders that are 2/4s or something that's a 4/6. There's like an artifact from Mirrodin that's a spider that's is it a 2/6 or a 4/6? This is totally unnecessary. I don't know why I'm even looking this up. Spider artifact Mirrodin. I don't even think this is this common? But maybe it's not a spider. Well, now I'm just looking up all the artifacts in Mirrodin. That's not. Oh, maybe it wasn't in Mirrodin. It was in Mirrodin block. That's what I meant. Sorry. It might be in Darksteel. Now I just have to know, right? There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Arachnoid. 2/6. Yeah. Also not available in Pauper. I don't know why I'm going on these tangents. You don't care. Anyway, Sentinel Spider is not very good. This is French vanilla, but these are not amazing stats. You can do a whole lot better for your 5 mana. We say this all the time, it seems, like at least like once every few episodes. But if you're spending 5 mana on a green creature, you have one that's already there. The name is also escaping me right now. It's the dragon. It's the dragon with initiative, and you'd play that instead. Why can't I remember the dragon with initiative? God, now I gotta look this one up too. The Advent, green dragon, mana value is equal to 5. The Avenging Hunter, sure, yeah, that's the one. This is the one to look for. It's got trample. It's a 5/4 for 5, and you take the initiative when it comes into play. It's just the best 5 mana green creature you can play. It doesn't have reach, it doesn't have vigilance, but it's just better. So you play Avenging Hunter 10 times out of 10 over Sentinel Spider. Sentinel Spider, I'm going to give you a 2.7. Yeah, I guess that's fair. Rakdos Roustabout. What a fun name that is. 1 and Rakdos, so a black and a red, for a 3/2 Ogre Warrior. Whenever this creature becomes blocked, it deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. We have... Don't we have an effect? Isn't there a keyword for this? Afflict? Is that what that is? Whenever this creature becomes blocked, defending player loses 3 life. So yeah, you could have just... I guess this is dealing damage and not losing life. So it's not quite afflict. Interesting, though, because we already kind of have this. Anyway, it is still fine. It's kind of neat. It also says whenever it becomes blocked. I wonder if... It doesn't even say in the things. An ability that triggers when a creature becomes blocked triggers only once if two are... Yeah, that's the question I had, is if I block this with 2 creatures, does it deal 2 damage to me because I blocked it twice? No, blocking is a single thing that you do no matter how many creatures block it. It only becomes blocked once. So this can only do 1 damage each attack step. It's not very good. It's basically a vanilla 3/2 for 3 mana that gets you a little bit of extra. You're always going to be able to deal a damage when it attacks. Maybe 3, maybe 1. How much is that worth to you? I mean, it does. If they're down to one life, blocking doesn't stop them from dying. That's cool. But most of the time, I don't think that little chip damage is going to matter all that much, especially on a gold card. I think you just want a better card overall. Probably would have been fun in limited. Maybe a good cube card. I say a card is good in cube just because, I don't know. I like cubes that are underpowered. I don't particularly like playing super powered cubes or cubes that have very strict theming to them. I kind of just like to play... I would really just like a draft chaff cube, but one that's, doesn't necessarily have just a bunch of random mechanics in it. I want them to be focused, but not good. If you get what I'm saying. I want to have a cube that feels like I'm playing a limited environment, but I'm kind of only playing with the commons and uncommons. It's one of the reasons I like Pauper, is that it's fun to play with cards that you don't look at one card and you go, whoa, busted. that thing's so broken. And for the most part, when you're playing with Pauper cards, every card is just, this has a clever little piece of value to it. Or that's a fun little interaction that this can do. And it's less, oh yeah, you play this card and you win the game. That's why I don't like combos for the most part either. I just like fun little interactions that add value or give you slight edges in places. That's what I like about Magic the Gathering. This guy, I'll give him a 2.6, I guess. I think this is our last card, but we'll do a bonus card. Ninja of the New Moon is 3 and double black for a 6/3 Spirit Ninja with ninjutsu for 3 and a black. So for 3 and a black, you can return an unblocked attacker you control to hand, and you play this. You put this card on the battlefield from your hand, tapped and attacking. Ninjutsu is complicated generally. And it's led to a lot of complications. It's why when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out, they kind of they retooled ninjutsu into the sneak ability. They also kind of did that with web slinging a little bit. They're both some similar-ish ways of finding ways to kind of play ninjutsu, because people love ninjutsu. It's a cool ability. But it is a little hard to understand sometimes, or it's hard to understand the full breadth of what ninjutsu can do. So, first off, before we talk a little bit more about ninjutsu, this card is not particularly great. It is good in the fact that you can put in a 6/3 and have it be unblocked and know that you're dealing 6 damage. It's kind of a hell of a finisher when you get to do that. Paying 4 mana though is too much for this, and you're never going to pay 5 to put this on the board normally. You'd always want to ninjutsu this because that's where the value is. It's too easy to pay 5 mana, put this thing on the board. Your opponent pays 1 mana, they lightning bolt it. Like I've said for multiple cards today, but if you can ninjutsu this thing in, when your opponent is where it makes it much harder for your opponent to find time to lightning bolt it, or they don't have the mana for it, then you're doing pretty well. So this card's fine. It's kind of whatever. I'll hold off my score for a second, but it's not going to be a great score. Ninjutsu, though, is interesting as a concept because you swing in, you're unblocked. And now, from the time that your opponent declares no blocks on the creature, on a creature that you know you're going to be able to ninjutsu, between that time and the end of combat, not when you deal damage, the end of combat, which is after the damage step, all that time, which is the assigning damage. It's not a whole lot of time, but it's more time than you think. You have the ability to use the ninjutsu skill, and ninjutsu happens at instant speed. It's closer to like when you morph, where it's a free action in a way, but it happens at split second speed. I guess it is kind of split second speed. So you can do all these crazy things that seem wrong, but they do work. So the idea here is I have a flying creature or some creature that's evasive that's going unblocked. Now, before damage, the traditional way you see ninjutsu happen is that I'm going to spend the card's ninjutsu cost that's in my hand. I pick up the card that was unblocked, the creature that was unblocked. I bring this in, it's tapped and attacking the opponent. And generally, then you go to the damage phase. This new creature does its damage instead. So for this card, for example, I've got a 2/2 flyer, and now you thought you were taking 2 damage, but I ninjutsu this guy in, and now you're taking 6. Good. That's better. Some ninjas will also have combat damage triggers, like Ninja of the Deep Hours, where, so I bring in my Ninja of the Deep Hours, I ninjutsu that in, it hits you, it deals 2 damage, which might be, might be better, might be worse than the card that I ninjutsu'd out, but it deals 2 damage and then I draw a card. It has a combat damage trigger to draw you a card. So that's a reason you might want to use the ninjutsu ability, because it has the card, your creature has an ability and a combat damage trigger that you more guaranteed get. Now, your opponent still has the opportunity to spend mana because it's before the damage phase. They can respond to the damage phase, and they can try to remove your creature. They can try to lightning bolt it or cast it down. But because your creature is still unblocked, ninjutsu is still available. And you can choose, if you have a second card with ninjutsu in your hand, you can choose to ninjutsu out the card that you ninjutsu'd in. And you can swap those again. And once you've swapped those again, because that creature is also now still unblocked, no blocks were declared on it because it's past the blocker stage. So your opponent tries to play a lightning bolt, and you go, oh, I'm actually going to pick up my Ninja of the Deep Hours, and I'm going to play my Moon Circuit Hacker as a ninjutsu ability. And now that is the one hitting you. And because now the target that you had, the Ninja of the Deep Hours, is gone, it's off the table, that spell fizzles. And now I still have this creature coming in. Now you have to pay the additional mana to ninjutsu that. So you'll have to ninjutsu twice and pay the mana both times for that. But that is the thing you can do. You can also choose to ninjutsu after damage is dealt. So I can have, maybe I have just a creature that's bigger, but there aren't as many times that you would do this because it doesn't normally make sense, because the ninjas that you have generally have combat damage triggers or are generally bigger than the creatures that you're ninjutsuing out. But there are times where you go, ooh, I've got this, I don't know, guy who's got a ton of power, like an 8 power guy or something. And maybe this is a bad example, but like you have a Maelstrom Colossus. I want my Maelstrom Colossus to swing in because it's going to do 7 damage to the opponent. And they don't block it. So I think I want the 7 damage to hit them. But then, before the end of combat, we've done the damage, 7 damage dealt to you, but before the end of combat, I can now ninjutsu out the Maelstrom Colossus, put it back into my hand, and then if I have enough mana, I can play the Maelstrom Colossus on my second main phase and get get another Cascade. That's a thing you could do. And sometimes it is the most useful thing for you to do. And some opponents don't understand that because they think ninjutsu has to happen before the damage phase, or they think you can only ninjutsu once, or that they've responded to something and that you're unable to respond back. Ninjutsu's kind of messed up that way. And that's why we've gotten sneak and web slinging and other ways to get similar kind of effects, but are doing them in a way that is a little bit more limited. Sneak can only happen before damage. Yeah. Let me look up sneak just to be sure. How about we look up Leonardo Big Brother? You may cast this. Okay, so it's also a cast. That's right. So your opponent can't counterspell a ninjutsu ability because that is an ability on the card. Sneak is a cast, so you're casting this as a spell. So you can counter a sneak spell. You return an unblocked creature or unblocked attacker you control to your hand during the declare blocker step. It has to be during the declare blocker step, or I guess in response to the declare blocker step. Your opponent said, "Okay, I'm blocking these guys. This one is unblocked, and now you can cast this, and you have to cast it then." So it's always being cast before the combat damage step, and he enters tapping and attacking. So a lot more limited than what ninjutsu can do for you, but sometimes you might want this more because it is a cast trigger. So it is a cast spell. So if you have something that cares about you casting spells, that can also work for this. Sometimes you'll want that instead. Anyway, that's a very long walk to tell you that Ninja the New Moon is not a particularly great card. Ninjutsu is a really cool ability, though, and it's interesting to see now that we have cards that we play that both have ninjutsu and have sneak in the Pauper format, and to a lesser degree web slinging. And how those interact. That sometimes you're playing in like Orzhov Blade, a deck that is very near and dear to my heart. You have the Okuba Gang Shinobi, which is a Kamigawa card, and those have ninjutsu. Those rat ninjas have ninjutsu, but you're also now starting to play Orokosaki, which has sneak. And when you play both of those together, it's a little bit more difficult to keep that in your head, and for the opponent to keep it in their head too. Like, is this the one with ninjutsu that works one way, or is this the one with sneak that works the other way? Again, long walk to tell you Ninja the New Moon is like a 3.1. Sorry. I just like ninjutsu, and I like talking about ninjutsu. And sometimes even pretty seasoned players don't know all the interesting mechanics behind ninjutsu. And as somebody who played during the original Kamigawa block, ninjutsu was something that took me a lot of time to learn, and I was playing in high school and playing during lunchtime and things like that. And we had to learn. We had to learn how to make those things work, and you learn the hard way sometimes, and you lose a couple matches due to ninjutsu or due to not using ninjutsu correctly or most efficiently. Just a fun time. Anyway, that is certainly enough out of me. I will see you next time on Common Knowledge. Bye.